Not enough nonsense in your life? Need a little more? Well, get ready, because these two have it in spades. Loose talk.
What are you talking about? Nonsense.
Even looser opinions.
Please explain.
And you're along for the ride.
Everybody strap in!
This is The Burble with Benny and Az.
Oh, look at you lovely people. Welcome back to the Burble Podcast. My name is Benny.
And my name is Az.
The opening of beers means we are ready to go with the absolute nonsense that's happening in the world. Have you had a good week, Az?
I've had a week. It was a week that was, and there's some crazy shit going down that I'm itching to talk about.
I'm itching just to scold you quickly.
Oh, what have I done now?
You, now look, this whole, don't do drugs is bad and all this kind of thing, but that's okay.
Solid advice.
Solid advice. I got peer pressured into downloading a game.
Aha.
And I can't stop playing it and nor yelling and swearing at it. It's a Tetris game that you play against 99 people at a time all around the world on the Nintendo Switch.
Yes, Tetris 99. And they thought, let's take a single-player, nice, calm game from the 80s. We all know it was released with the original Game Boy and was a smash hit.
Mm-hmm. I played enough Tetris.
We've both won Tetris tournaments, actually, in our hometown. I have the T-shirt to prove it, so do you.
But I got to tell you, you, because I can't put it down.
I know.
Blood pressure's gone up. So
I know. Now I've shared my pain. I'm like, the pusher. Just the first one's free, and then now 99 more. But,
you're going to cop it tonight.
Okay.
You're going to cop it tonight. All right.
99 times.
As this week on the podcast, China have, they're secretly developing drones, I guess you could say, little gremlins. They're space junk cleanup drones because there is a lot of space junk floating around Earth.
Yes, there is.
Which makes it very difficult for satellites and space flights. It has to be planned so they can actually get through the space junk.
Yeah, because a little fleck of paint can smash a windscreen on the space shuttle or the Elon Musk mobiles and things out there now, so yes.
Well, China are calling them scavengers, Russia call them inspectors, but the US call them threats. Are you going to talk about that? Now, listen, as I don't really judge on how you make your money.
Right.
But I got to tell you, when you turned up at this village fete over in Wollaston, in the Forest of Dean in England, you fleeced some money out of people, and I got to say, I need to scold you for that. We're going to dive into the secret world of competitive eating on this podcast, and we're going to find out some of the secrets of Joey Chestnut, who is the number one competitive eater in the world, how exactly that he...
Do you reckon that's his real name?
Joey Chestnut.
Did you change it?
It could be his...
nom de plume.
Nom de plume, or his porn name, his competitive eating porn name.
I don't know if there's a category on Pornhub, competitive eating porn.
Yeah, well,
and what are they eating if it is?
Speaking of eating, a woman has revealed that she's on a diet that consists of taking energy from nature and not eating any solids. Moron. She's coming up. Now, speaking of bodies, okay, she's looking to get a great healthy body, but a body fell out of the sky in England just near the Heathrow Airport. After a 9-hour flight from Nairobi, a stowaway fell from the undercarriage of the jet. We'll talk about that story because it was a very close call. Russell Crowe. Don't you miss the days of Russell Crowe throwing phones across the room?
Absolutely.
And chucking a shit fit, and he doesn't even do that when Souths lose. Because
he's just accustomed to that now, isn't he?
Well, I reckon when he goes down to give the team a spray, they've made sure that there's nothing that everything's bolted down.
Yeah.
Everything's bolted down there. So Russell Crowe, and I would like to say though, I reckon that Russell Crowe's tanties would be far better than Desi Hasler when they don't.
We should
win.
put them both in a room together and make them fight to the death.
That would be funny. An L-plater in regional New South Wales in the town of Nyngan got stopped on Sunday for trying to smuggle 29 goats in the back of his small vehicle. Also, a father of three who's now passed away from a dare after eating a gecko.
Yeah, this is a bit not cool.
It's not cool, but it is a category for it's a front runner for the Darwin Awards.
I think he's going to take it out this year for sure.
0 fox given as.
Yeah, that's my motto.
This fox from Norway travelled from Norway to northern Canada in a remarkable journey that's left scientists thunderstruck.
Thunderstruck?
I've never seen a thunderstruck scientist, but we'll talk about that. Now, this is something that if you enjoy taking selfies with people, getting together and all that kind of thing, you idiots, you are contributing now to the spread of head lice.
Not just head lice.
Not just head lice. These are super head lice.
Dun, dun, dun.
And something that we need to talk about as well is the massive fire that's happened at the Jim Beam warehouse recently over there in the United States that destroyed 45,000 barrels of aging bourbon. That's all coming up on The Burble.
This is The Burble with Benny and Az.
So as drones are more prevalent, they're everywhere. Everyone's got one. Not everyone understands the laws that you can't really. It's like, say, for example, where we are at our Burble studios.
Can't fly.
Can't fly. It's got to be within 5 kilometres of an airport or outside of that rim.
Yep.
It's a very difficult and touchy thing. A lot of people just need to know what the rules are and all that kind of thing. However, though, drones in space, I would imagine, would be a little bit more difficult to deal with, don't you think?
Maybe.
Drones in space?
Space drones.
Well, I mean, who's controlling the space drone? Because it's not like you could sit there with your
Well-
iPhone in the controller. It'd take a while to get up there, 45 kilometres to reach.
Yeah, not too long. But, like, AI, has that come a long way? You know, they're autonomous now. Like, there's no problem with them forming a great super drone, like Japanese Transformer style, and coming back to Earth or anything, is
That's true. I mean, you could think of these drones as sort of like the birth of Voltron or something.
Ooh.
Maybe.
There's enough stuff up there to make a Voltron.
Well, that's what we're talking about. So space junk,
Yeah.
okay? So space junk, this is what we need to deal with now. Not only have we destroyed the surface of the planet.
Yeah, we've ruined the sky as
We've
well.
ruined the sky, exactly. So China are calling them scavengers.
China.
Russia calls them inspectors and the US calls them threats. Now, the race is on to clean up space junk orbiting over our heads, but fears are that these trash collectors are really killer gremlins. What would you rather, as all this stuff, all that space junk that they've got up there? Now, is it likely to fall? Is it going to get burned up?
Most of it's small enough to burn up in the atmosphere. There are a few, like, you know, the middle stages of rockets and stuff floating around up there, the big circular things that you see on those videos that just tumble off. They're too big to burn up, so they kind of get caught in an orbit, and eventually they'll come down. It was like the Mir space station. Remember that hoo-ha when they said it was going to fall on Canberra or something a few years ago?
Yep.
And it didn't. But, yeah, space junk's going to be bad. Like, if we're going to start doing the flights to the moon or, you know, the tourist flights into space, one bit of space junk can really ruin your day.
Yep.
One of I think it was STS Discovery, got hit by a piece of space junk in the 90s, the space shuttle, and it shattered one of the windscreens. And they're like 6-inch thick lead glass kind of deals. And it was the size of your fingernail, even smaller. Just the speeds they get to is enormous. And eventually,
some things are going at like 35,000 kilometres an hour.
And eventually there'll be a mesh or a fog of space junk around the Earth, and you won't be able to get through it.
Like on Wall-E.
Yeah.
Wall-E, not Wall-E.
Wall-E.
That, to me, is amazing that would actually occur. But I thought that it was just like the Americans and maybe a couple of other agencies putting stuff up there in space. But
Oh, God, no.
there's a
heaps.
ton of people
The
doing
Indians
it.
are putting it in space.
Now, what have they got a use for in space?
Well, you know, they've got a network of 7-Elevens. They've got to communicate. So satellites in space, you know.
Yeah, because the Jetsons and their neighbours need a place just to duck off to grab milk
Exactly right. But
while they're out there. So
everyone's out there. The French.
But what are the French doing in space? What were they doing at Mururoa Atoll?
They're lurking.
Hey, we got nuclear weapons, but we'll bury our head in the sand when the war comes.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you? I would like to see Star Wars dubbed in French, just to see how they handle it, whether or not it sounds snooty.
Oh, it sounds snooty.
Okay, so are we worried about these drones? Is America right? These Chinese space drones / gremlins, are they enough of a threat?
There's enough of them. It depends how many there are and how big they are, realistically. If one could grab, say, like a fair-sized satellite, which is about the size of a small 12-seat van or something, and hurl it back into Earth at the right trajectory, it could land on the White House, or it could, you know, do all sorts of bad stuff.
What about, though, satellites up there with a gremlin that gets attached to it and then sort of like a buzz droid or...
Oh, lasers through it like in the Matrix when the squids land on and they zap through.
Well, not lasers, because that kind of does exist.
Well, there's space lasers, I'm sure, that we don't know about.
Space lasers. So could they, say, get on there and...
Oh, they could shit up for sure.
So, I mean, if I'm watching, like, Foxtel and then I get different channels from around the world.
No, you're more likely to get nothing because they'll destroy the satellite.
They don't do that,
And
especially...
like, it was 5G coming, and Elon Musk, all hail, Lord Elon, putting, 20,000 satellites, tiny little satellites in orbit to give the world Wi-Fi for free.
See, that works. I like that.
Yeah, but if he did that, and then we were all dependent on his Wi-Fi signal, and these little space gremlins came along and knocked out, 25% of them, then there goes the internets.
So MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, they state that attacks against satellites may have already happened. And last year, fears Moscow was developing a secret satellite saboteur renewed.
Ooh, that's a good name for an emo band, isn't it?
It's a secret satellite saboteur.
Yeah.
What was initially believed as to be a piece of space junk left over from a rocket launch began to behave abnormally. It was changing course and speed under its own power, and it was doing so just days after Vice President Mike Pence formally announced plans to create a new Space Force.
That's a whole podcast on its own, the Space Force.
Now, why would it do this? Why the secrecy? Was it some sort of message ads?
Could have just been aliens.
Aliens?
Could have been aliens. Could have just been got knocked around by other pieces of space junk. Could have been random spy satellite or the Chinese or the Russians fart-arsing around in space. We don't know.
Now, there's also talk as well that there could be orbital pickup. Now, I don't know what that actually means, but like, for example, would they send up, say, I don't know, the space equivalent of the garbage truck? Like, people leaving their space junk out on the nature strip just to collect it, get rid of it.
It doesn't make any sense to bring it back to Earth because you're going to use a lot of energy. Science time here, boys and girls. You're going to use a lot of energy to get the thing into space, right?
Yep.
Then you've got to get it back out of space.
Yep, catch up with it.
It's much simpler to actually just change its trajectory so it leaves orbit and just flies out into the solar system.
Yeah.
Much, much simpler. Why you'd go up and collect it, I don't know. That just seems to be wasteful to me. You're creating more space junk. You're adding to the problem.
With all the junk that we've got here on Earth, now, I'm sure that somebody at some time has had a serious discussion about getting rid of some of our waste into space.
Fling it into the sun.
Well, why wouldn't we?
It's too...
We don't know there's anyone out there. It's like...
No, it's not that. It's just way too hard to get a heap of stuff into space. Like, the costs outweigh, unfortunately, the benefit.
What about
you only get a couple of tons of garbage into space at a time, and it costs $1 squillion.
What about this stupid idea they had for a space elevator?
Well, we don't have... we don't have the materials to make it.
See, this is why I like asking him scientific questions, because he's actually on this the whole time.
Yeah, because you can... See, the idea of a space elevator is a really, 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 really long string.
Yep.
With a weight at the end.
Yep.
Now, what the weight does at the end is counterbalances the weight of the Earth, so the string just gets pulled through the atmosphere and it stays in the same spot all the time.
Yep.
Problem is, we have storms, we have solar flares, we have all sorts of shit that just wants to cut that rope.
Shenanigans.
General shenanigans and f***ery will f*** up that rope, right?
So what would they make the rope out of? Like a
high
cable?
tensile steel. Yeah, it's got to be a cable. It's got to be about 300 or 400 kilometers long to make it viable.
Right.
And then, but once it's there and it's solid, you can just like run capsules up and down at happy days. You put your garbage in a capsule up the top, open it up,
goes around.
But we can't make a piece of cable strong enough.
I'm sure we can.
Well, maybe, but not out in the open. Maybe in Area 51, they've got super crazy strong alien cable.
Yeah. Alien cable.
Avian cable.
Yeah.
But no, we can't at this stage. And look, the world's too busy taking selfies and fighting over how many genders there are to come together and actually fucking do something useful for this planet.
Well, yeah, see, that's the thing, and we are coming up to, I think by the time this podcast is released, it will have already been 50 years since man walked on the moon. And
allegedly
walked on the moon. That's right. But I've got to say that I don't think we're doing enough with space. We sort of left.
Well, there's a lot of it.
There is a lot of it. I think there's also, and sorry to bore you, we'll say swear words in a moment. They're sending a mission to one of the moons of Saturn, which looks like it's in an early gestational stage, similar to Earth.
They're going to send like little drones and little buggies. It's going to be shit hot. It's going to be really cool.
Not in our lifetime,
my
are they?
scientist nips all hard. Yeah, in our lifetime, like 2030 or something, I think it is.
Okay, all right. 20, 30 years they're going to send something.
No, 2030.
Oh, 2030?
Yeah.
So that's 11 years away.
Yeah, well, I may still be alive.
Yeah. Well,
So, liver disease doesn't take me first.
Probably. So anyway, there's space junk out there. Could be little gremlins. This is where we could be fighting the new war.
Well, what I reckon we should do, right? How many gamers have we got in basements around the world that play games, right?
Lots.
So let's get them off the Fortnites and the Call of Duties, and let's give them all one of those little drones and a remote